Hi, this is Lynn Edgerly on May 4th, 2010 from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm going to talk about the Alex by Spring Design. And I've been using it off and on for a couple of weeks now since it arrived, and it's got some nice features to it, but I think some drawbacks. One of them is the price, $399 compared with $259 for the Kindle and the same price for the Nook. So it's a lot more expensive, and it does some things that are very similar to the Nook. The one thing that I really don't like about the Alex, and it seems almost minor to talk about because the weight is and the size are so similar between the Alex and the Nook, but you'll see how much taller the Nook is. I'm sorry, see how much taller the Alex is. It's a good inch, maybe inch and a half taller. And in my experience of using it, what that translates to is it's sort of, if the natural way to hold it is in one hand like this reading, and the advanced buttons are here sort of low. So to hold it, you've got to hold it on the lower third of the device. And then if you press the next page button, then it goes there, and then this is the left side is the previous page. And what's happening is that the weight of it is sort of pulling down on you. You're not the natural place to hold it sort of mid-distance on the height would be here, but there's no buttons to advance the pages. So you're down here, and then over a period it just seems to tug. Both the Nook and the Kindle have what I find to be a more comfortable placement of the next buttons. Here's the next button on the Nook, and the previous button over here, and there's actually two sets of buttons on both sides of the Nook. Now, the thing that is similar about the Nook and the Alex is that they each have an LCD screen at the bottom, which is what they use to control you control your way around. And in the case of the Nook, you've got these large icons along the bottom, and in the case of the Alex, which runs an Android operating system, you have you go to kind of like a desktop, and I don't know if you can see that, but down here there's a regular kind of desktop with icons. And so if you want to go to the library, you touch the library icon and it brings up the books that you have there. The thing which I think the Nook has got an advantage over the Alex is in the number of books. I'm not sure exactly how many books on the Barnes & Noble store, but it's a lot, and there are a lot of contemporary books. It's not all just the Google books, which put them up to the million books and everything. If you go into the Alex bookstore, you find listed Google books, free titles, EPUB books, Gutenberg, web books, feed books, and Smashwords. And these are all, you can buy some books in some of these. I think Smashwords has some books you can buy. But there's just nowhere near the selection of contemporary titles for the Alex at this point compared to the Nook. And then, of course, when you get to the Kindle and you've got 500,000 books available, that's the premier source for books. This business of the web browser, it's sort of interesting that you can browse the web on these two devices. The Alex gives you a lot bigger screen to surf the web with on the browser than the Nook does. But the Nook's design is pretty straightforward. You've got a way that you can hide the controls on it, and it's actually easier to enter a URL and go somewhere on the Nook than it is on the Alex. Now, when it comes to web browsing, I think both of these probably have the Kindle beat, because you've got to do the Kindle, you go to experimental, and then you go to basic web, and the the difference is you don't have any color anywhere, so you're not seeing any of the web pages with this sort of window of color that the Nook and the Alex have. The one big advantage for the web that the Kindle has, though, is that you get unlimited 3G with the Kindle, so you can get on the web anywhere with the Kindle. On the Nook, the only time you can get on the web is if you're within Wi-Fi, and if you are on 3G, you can buy books from Barnes & Noble on the Nook, but you can't surf the web. And then the Alex doesn't even have 3G yet. Now they're talking about 3G in the summer. I don't know if if I keep this device, which frankly I don't think I'm going to, will it somehow have 3G capability added to it wirelessly? I don't really know. I kind of doubt it. So it's $399 and it doesn't have 3G, which puts it at a real price disadvantage. So the weight, the Nook is the heaviest. The Alex is slightly heavier than the Kindle. The Kindle is the lightest, and in my mind, I think it's still the best. I find the physical keyboard on the Kindle is easier to use. I've been using it for a couple of years, so maybe I've got a bias to it. And then when I put notes and annotations on the Kindle, I can get them really easily, including if I go to kindle.amazon.com, I can see all of my highlights and annotations on the web. And if I buy a book on a Kindle, I can read it on Kindle for PC, Kindle for Mac, Kindle for iPhone, and of course Kindle for iPad. So this was meant to be mainly a discussion of the Alex, and I'll give it some credit for nice design, and it's a likable enough e-reader, but I couldn't really in good conscience recommend buying this over either the Nook or the Kindle at this point. And if it has future improvements with 3G and a lot better sources of contemporary books to buy on it, maybe. But it's just falls short of the mark at this point. I don't know, good points for effort, and there are some things to like about this. I have had fun learning it and seeing what it can do, but in the end I would not recommend it over the other two e-readers. That's my take on the Alex compared to the Kindle and the Nook. This is Len Edgerly from Cambridge, Mass.